Good morning to one and all present here. I am Jevin from Pharmaceutical Technology. Ideas shape the course of history, quoted John Maynard Keynes. For the next few minutes, we will be taking you all through the ideas that shaped our history. Greetings to each and everyone present here. I am Jevin here. Me and my teammates are going to take you all on a historical ride named the Great Revolt of 1857. This topic is given to us because history is past that happened and still lingers and impacts us even in the present and will do the same in the future too. We are all eating the fruits of the done by our brave ancestral warriors. We celebrate Independence Day so independently today because of those heroes who devoted their existence for the welfare of the future generations. It's not a good gesture to stop looking back about all the pain and tears that went into the past to make us celebrate this Independence Day in the present. So we are going to speak about the Great Revolt, which is just one of the most important seeds that our warriors sowed long ago to make us fly free in the sky long after. The Great Revolt of 1857 was the first and foremost rebellion against the British rule, and it paved the way for more and more rebellions after that in various places of India. Every right has a driving force, and here it was Veer Savarkar. Veer Savarkar was the one who named the 1857 rebellion as the first independence struggle. Without Veer Savarkar, the rebellion of 1857 would not have become history. We would have seen it from the point of view of Britishers. The Indian War of Independence is an Indian nationalist history of the 1857 revolt by Vinayak Damodar Savarkar that was first published in 1909. In this right, we firstly have two destinations, that is, the two rebellions. They are Fakir Sannyasi rebellion and Sandal rebellion, which played a major role in the Great Revolt. Then we will also discuss some of the causes, some main events, centers, suppression, and finally the causes of the failure of revolt and the results of the Great Revolt. Hope you all will enjoy this ride and gain some good knowledge about the Great Revolt of 1857 and reverence towards our fighters. The current slide shows us the destinations where we will stop before diving into the Great Revolt of 1857. The Fakir Sannyasi Rebellion took place from 1777 to 1781, and the Sandal Rebellion took place at 1855. The Great Revolt took place at 1857.
Greetings to all. This is Nehashri from Pharma Department. Fakir Sannyasi Rebellion. Sannyasi Fakir Rebellion commenced in mid-1760s and lasted till 1800. The revolt initially occurred around the Murshidabad and Baikunthpur forests of Jalpaiguri. It was often referred to as early war for India's independence from foreign rule. Who were Fakirs and Sannyasis? The resisting Fakirs belonged to the Madariya Tariqa, a Sufi sect which flourished in Bengal under the leadership of Shah Sultan Hassan Surya Barana in the second half of the 17th century. The sannyasis were the Vedantic Hindu yogis belonging to the Giri and Puri groups of Ekdandi sannyasism. Both the fakirs and sannyasis were armed bands living in khankas and aktas respectively. In rituals and practices, there was a good deal of affinity between the Sufi fakirs and yogi sannyasis, and that contributed to the common alliance against the alien rule. Reasons of the revolt. 100s of years, the fakirs and sannyasis used to travel to North Bengal to visit various shrines and pilgrim sites. As a tradition, they used to collect a sizable amount of alms from local zamindars. Before Battle of Plassey, the zamindars had no problem in making these alms, and this collection of money was an amicable transaction. The British control over Bengal after Battle of Plassey and Buxar led to increase in land tax and exploitation of the peasants. Further, the Bengal famine of 1770 led to the drop in production and many zamindars could not pay the taxes and lands of many of the old zamindars were confiscated and given to new purchasers. Numerous restrictions were placed on sannyasis and fakirs also because British considered them as looters and thugs. The peasants, displaced landlords, and these sadhus, also called fakirs, came together in a rebellion which started in the late 18th century and continued for around half century. In 1771, 150 fakirs were killed for no good reason. This triggered the rebellion, which reached its climax in late 1770s. Later, fakirs and sannyasis came together in a number close to 50,000 to defeat the common enemy British. Leaders and groups involved. Apart from sannyasis and fakirs, there was also active participation of displaced zamindars, peasants, artisans, and disbanded armies of Nawabs. The ex-army people provided leadership, peasants provided social base for the rebellion, while the sannyasis and fakirs provided a religious flavor to the struggle. They were able to capture company's Dhaka center and keep it under its control for some time. They also launched similar attacks in Patna, Hooghly, Cooch Behar, and Saran, etc., places where the rebellion took place. These pictures shows that where this Fakir Sannyasi rebellion took place. To conclusion, for Fakirs, Manju Shah was the main leader. He traveled from places to inspire to continue struggle. He was killed, and after his death, his brother Mushar Shah took the leadership and continued the rebel for some time. Later, Chirag Shah led the Fakirs to launch attack on the British establishments. However, later internal dissensions became the reason for weakening of the revolt. Thus, Fakir Sannyasi rebellion met an untimely end.
Hi all, this is Sushil from the EEE department. I'll be taking you on a ride on the Santal rebellion. So, this revolt is a forgotten war, one of the most impactful tribal movements. The first revolt with the aim of Swaraj. It was the Santal rebellion. So, who were the Santals? To give a background, Santals are a Mandu ethnic group native to India. They are the largest tribe in the Jharkhand state of India. Till the 19th century, Santals lived in forests and practiced hunting. They were often termed as knave and peace-loving. What led to the rebellion? You might be wondering, how did a peace-loving community ended up being the rebels? One of the reasons was due to their low level of literacy. They were caught in the shackles of zamindari system. The triggering point was the Battle of Plassey in 1757. The British took control over the parts of Bengal and imposed the Permanent Settlement Act. The landlords were the kings, and Santals had to serve these lords. Another great blow was the introduction of currency. Earlier, the taxes that were paid in crops now had to be paid in money. Because of this, they were forced to take loans from the moneylenders and were caught in a debt trap. Now it's like when you are continuously being suppressed, you know there is death, whether you retreat or fight back, and they chose to fight back. Who led the Santal rebellion? The rebellion was headed by the Murmu brothers, Sidhu, Kanu, Chand, and Bhairav. Now, every clan or group has some set of demotivators. To stop them, Sidhu stirred the religious sentiment, saying that God himself came in his dreams and ordered them to fight. As he belonged to the priest clan, everyone believed him and were ready to fight for Swaraj. The aftermath. During the uprising, they attacked on police and British authorities. They were passionate and fierce, but the bows and arrows never stood a chance against the firearms and the modern weapons. More than 15,000 Santals were killed, including Sidhu and Kanu. Every revolt ends, but not the spirit or the collective idea. This was true here too. The collective idea to attain Swaraj never died, and it was the basis of the 1857 revolt, and the spirit gave the people the confidence to fight against the British.
Hello everyone, this is Puvarasi from Mechanical Engineering Department, and I hereby continuing this with the causes of Great Revolt of 1857. Let's enter into our other topic, causes of Great Revolt of 1857. The Great Revolt of 1857. Indian Mutiny, also called as Sepoy Mutiny or First War of Independence, widespread but unsuccessful rebellion against the British rule in India in 1857 to 59. As there are many causes for the Great Revolt include, here I am explaining about the little causes such as social religious causes, problems of land revenue, disruptions of economy, doctrine of Laxi, annexation of house, military causes, and discrimination with sepoys. Social religious causes. From the early decades of 19th century, British had abandoned its policy of non-interference in the socio-religious life of the Indians. Abolition of sati in 1829 under Lord Bentinck, the Widow Remarriage Act of 1856, and the women education all led to destruction. In the social world of the people of Indian society, the construction of the railway and telegraph lines was resented by the people. The introduction of railways was resented on the grounds that people of all castes would travel on the same compartments, and these made the main causes of revolt by religious war. Military causes. The Indian sepoy was equally unhappy with emoluments compared to his British counterparts. A more immediate cause of sepoys' dissatisfaction was the order that they would not be given to the foreign service, allowance when serving outside their own regions. Also, the Indian sepoys was discriminated against in terms of promotion and salary. What made the main causes of revolt? Enfield rifle. The cartridge had to be beaten off before loading into the gun. The Indian sepoys believed that the cartridge was greased with either pitchfat or from cow fat. This made the main causes of revolt. Problems of land revenue. The Rayatwari and Mahalwari system demanded the revenue which was exorbitant, and methods of collecting the revenue were cruelly eliminated. Destructions of economy. During the revolt, the economic drain also destroyed the Indian industry, disintegrating the traditional fabric of the country. Doctrine of Laxi. According to the doctrine, any Indian princely states under the sovereignty of East Indian Company, the dominant imperial power in the Indian subsidiary system, would have its princely states abolished and therefore be annexed into British India. if the ruler was either manifestly incompetent or died without a male heir. About doctrine of laxity. The doctrine of laxity was a policy of annexation initiated by the East Indian Company in the Indian subcontinent in relation to the princely state and applied until 1859. 2 years after, company rule was succeeded by the British Raj. Annexation of out. It was done for the removing of the misrule and administration irregularities. Discrimination with sepoys. The Indian sepoys were victims of discrimination. They were paid low wages and faced constant verbal and physical abuses of their bosses. The annexation of Oudh in 1856 created discontent in the Bengal army. The Indian sepoys were chaffed of the new customs, which forbade them putting caste marks on their foreheads, keeping beards, and wearing turbans.
I am Vaishnavi here from the Department of Ceramic Technology. Let's move into the main events and the centers of the Great Revolt. It started from the Sepoy Mutiny in Barakpur and spread to Meerut, Delhi, Kanpur and Lucknow. At Meerut, despite the permission to create grease from vegetable oil, there was no reasoning done with the soldiers. When all the other attempts and uproar failed to change this phenomenon, on March 29, 1857, Mangal Pandey launched an open mutiny at Barakpur in Kolkata. He rebelled and killed many British officers for their cruel and inhuman nature towards his countrymen. He and a few of his men attacked Sergeant Major Hudson. In effect, it led to a gruesome battle on the army ground. Mangal Pandey was surrounded by the British soldiers, but he collapsed after firing a bullet on his own chest. Later, he was sentenced to death. His sacrifice for the nation did not go futile. It was like the first ripple in the water which just grew in time. Slowly and steadily, all of India was covered with the air of revolution and freedom. Siege of Delhi. The revolutionaries reached from Meerut to Delhi on 11th May 1857, and the small British garrison at Delhi was not able to resist and consequently fell into their hands within 2 days. The Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar was proclaimed the Emperor of India. Siege of Kanpur. At Kanpur, the struggle for independence was led by Nawab Nana Sahib. A number of British fell into his hands and he showed great kindness to them. But when he heard about the inhuman attitude of General O'Neill towards Indians, he became very furious and killed all the British. Siege of Lucknow. The struggle for independence at Lucknow was led by Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. The Chief Commissioner, Sir Henry Lawrence, sought refuge with 1,000 English and 700 Indian soldiers inside the residency. Indians did not make any concession and killed almost most of the Englishmen, including Sir Henry Lawrence and the notorious English General O'Neill. At Jhansi and Gwalior. The leader of the revolutionaries in central India was Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi. General Sir Hugh Ross attacked Jhansi in March 1858, but the brave Rani Lakshmi Bai kept the British general unnerved for quite some time. She, with the help of Tantia Tope, created problems for the British troops. Both fought many successful battles against the British. At Bihar. The revolt at Bihar was led by Kunwa Singh, a zamindar of Jadishpur. Though he was 80 years old, he played a prominent part in the revolt. He fought the British in Bihar and then joined Nana Sahib's forces and took part in various encounters with the English in Earth and Central India. He died on April 27, 1858, leaving behind a glorious record of valor and bravery.
Hi guys, I am Harish from EC department and I will be talking about the suppression and causes for failure of the revolt. The revolt of 1857 spread like a wildfire across North India. However, the British were not going to let the Indians do as they please. They introduced the martial law, which means military officers and even ordinary British people were given the power to punish Indian citizens. Civilian rights of Indians was totally nullified and they were treated as slaves, and the British were just beginning their counterattack. The British knew the importance of Delhi as it is the capital, so the British split their army in order to conquer Delhi. The rebels from all over North India had come to Delhi just to defend the capital, and they put up a valiant fight. The fighting and losses on both sides were heavy, but the British came out victorious and captured Delhi. Bahadur Shah was taken the prisoner and the Indian princes were shot dead in public. The great house of Mughals was set on fire and all rebels were executed and disposed. The fall of Delhi was a heavy blow to the rebels. It affected them both mentally and physically. One by one, all the great leaders of the revolt fell. Nana Sahib was defeated at Kanpur. Tantia Tope escaped into the jungles and fought valiantly all alone, but he was captured and killed. Lakshmibai, despite all odds, fought bravely while carrying a child, but she was also defeated on the battlefield. And by the end of 1859, the British authority over India was re-established fully and firmly. The British, on the way, committed various atrocities and tortured many Indians to death. There were several factors responsible for the British success and the Indian failure. The main one was the lack of technology. The Sepoys had few guns and muskets and fought with old swords, but the British had the latest weapons, and they used the telegram to convey messages. What India really needed was a strong leader with military and political skill who could unite the entire nation into one and defeat the British. But unfortunately, none of the leaders were capable of such a feat. The rebels were pretty much backstabbed by their own rulers of India, who actively helped the British for higher positions and short-sighted greed. The revolt of 1857 was badly organized. Due to lack of communication facilities, the sepoys of various regions could not act in a simultaneous manner. The revolt did not spread to the wider regions of the country, and the majority of South India didn't even knew about the revolt. But ultimately, the reason for failure was the people themselves. The Indian people were lethargic, unpatriotic, and ignorant of the revolt, and they didn't support the sepoys, which unfortunately is the main reason that led to the failure.
Good morning, all. This is Ashwin here to explain about the results of the revolt. Result of the revolt of 1857. The 1857 revolt, though failed and crushed by superior military force of the British, was a significant event of far-reaching consequences in the history of British rule in India. It marks the end of an era of mercantile capitalism and early colonial rule, and the beginning of direct imperial hegemony of the British Crown. While in the first century, from 1757 to 1857, the British Crown indirectly ruled India. In the second century, from 1858 to 1947, the British Crown directly ruled India through the Viceroy appointed by the monarch. Awakening of peasants class. The peasants joined this revolt, which was unique. Peasant participation in the rebellion was provoked first by overtaxation and secondly by the fact that the sepoys themselves came for the villages. Unified effort. From this revolt, we can have a picture of India's struggle for keeping the rights. There were several revolts before this, but there was no feeling of Indianness in those revolts. The revolt of 1857 was collected effort of different sections of the people. Development of national feeling. Dr. K. M. Panikkar wrote that though the sepoys had limitations and weaknesses, but their efforts to make India free from British rule was patriotic work and a progressive step. If we do not consider any historical event on the basis of its success, then the revolt of 1857 was never a tragedy. Even in spite of failure that served a great purpose, it was the source of inspiration of India's freedom struggle. End of company's rule. The political result of this revolt was the end of company's rule in India. By a new act introduced in the British Parliament, the British government took the charge of rule in India. From then onwards, a viceroy was a representative for British king ruled in India. Direct rule of the British Crown. India now came under the direct rule of British Crown. This was announced by Lord Canning at a Darbar in Allahabad in proclamation issued on 1st November 1858 in the name of the Queen. The Indian administration was taken over by Queen Victoria, which in effort meant the British Parliament. Queen's Proclamation. The Queen's Proclamation served many promises in 1858. Government service was promised irrespective of caste, religion and on the basis of merit only. The doctrine of lapse of the Lord Dalhousie was cancelled. New recruitment policy of the army men was announced to see that they could not organize any revolt. In the important position of government, no Indian people were given any chance. Administrative change and military reorganization. The Governor General's office was replaced by the Viceroy. The rights of Indian rulers were recognized. The doctrine of lapse was abolished. The right to adopt sons as legal heirs was accepted. Before the revolt, the army of the British India was divided into two major divisions. As a result of the revolt, the two forces were united and it's called King's Forces. And 1/3 of it should consist only Europeans, judicial and diplomatic efforts. The British Crown agreed to provide employment to the Indians in the bureaucratic structure. In the sphere of judiciary, the Sardar courts and Crown Supreme Court were amalgamated into high courts, which were established in the presidency towns of Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. So, the revolt of 1857 was an unprecedented event in the history of British rule in India. Finally, there was an effect of the mutiny on the people of India themselves. Traditional society had made its protest against the incoming alien influences and it had failed. The princes and other natural leaders had either held aloof from the mutiny or had proved that most of the part were incompetent. From this time, all serious hope of the revival of the past or an exclusion of the West diminished. The traditional structure of Indian society began to break down and was eventually superseded by the westernized class system, from which emerged a strong middle class with an heightened sense of Indian nationalism. United though in a limited way, many sections of Indian society for a common cause. Though the revolt failed to achieve the desired goal, it sowed the seeds of Indian nationalism. One individual may die for an idea, but that idea will, after his death, incarnate itself into 1,000 lives. So we thank you all for giving us this wonderful opportunity. Jai Hind.
And belated Happy Independence Day to all. And special thanks to 3 seniors who guided us. Thank you.